Well, guess what, guys? It's another Compaq of the same model series. Now this one is like my AMD Compaq that I covered earlier in a previous video, as well as my childhood Compaq that I also briefly talked about in that previous video. This one, however, is particularly different, especially in terms of the CPU and such. Hello everyone and welcome to this video. So today we're going to be taking a look at this particular Compaq system that I have in my retrocomputing collection. This is the Compaq that I bought right after the AMD Compaq. Well, I got it months after I got my AMD Compaq. This one here is a Compaq Presario 7000 with an Intel processor inside. You know, that with that Intel Inside sticker right on the left side of the case, that case badge. Obviously that case sticker kind of like gives away what kind of processor it is, but yeah. I nicknamed this system as the Intel Compaq because of its Intel processor inside, pretty much. Like with my AMD Compaq, I nicknamed it as that because that had an AMD Athlon processor inside. This one, however, has an Intel processor inside. What kind is it? Well, it's a Pentium III. It's a Pentium III processor inside of this thing. It's a socketed form factor, obviously. And I got this months after I got the AMD Compaq, and I saw this on an online marketplace somewhere, and I found this as I was just searching through the marketplace, and this was listed as a parts machine, when it was listed, but it did show itself up and running pretty much, so I knew that it worked pretty much. And looking at the pictures, it also has an additional hard drive caddy, so it has two hard drive caddies instead of the one, like the one that's in my childhood Compaq and my AMD Compaq pretty much. So I saw the photos for this thing, and then I was like, maybe I should get another one to kind of add to my collection. And eventually I did one day. I did eventually get this one day, and it arrived at my place a few days later, and here it is. Well, here it is now in 2024, pretty much, because I've done some changes to it. Obviously, when the system came to me originally, it was missing this piece right here. So I'll show you what that looks like without this thing right here. So this is what it originally came in without this the little bottom covered tray for the CD storage, and it didn't have this CD drive. It didn't have that CDRW drive that I had in here, nor this, because that was just a recent addition. So what it originally came, it had a DVD-ROM CD-ROM drive, and it had a CDRW drive, which this is probably a similar model like the one that's in my AMD Compaq, which I also later found out that this was also non-functional too. And seeing that the other one's non-functional, they're probably Phillips drives. So this one's a Phillips drive, and the other CDRW drive, the one that's in my AMD Compaq, is also a Phillips drive. And both those two have failed, in terms of functionality. Like, this one works fine, but I don't know, because I tried pressing the eject button, and I don't know, it may come out or something like that, but like I couldn't get it to read anything or something. The other one was just completely dead. But either way, these are the two drives that I have in here, along with that one floppy drive that pretty much comes with every Compaq Presario 7000 series computers made at that time. And as I was saying earlier in the previous video, real computers have floppy disk drives. At least that's what I've heard from from a YouTube video that I watched. And it does use the MyStyle accent color kits for the face plates, as I talked about in the previous video, along with this bottom piece right here. And I use this for this Intel Compaq, not the AMD Compaq, because the AMD Compaq came with this piece included. This one didn't. So yeah, this is a Compaq Presario 7000 series computer with an Intel processor. Obviously, we already covered about the aspects and the aesthetics of this computer pretty much in a previous video, obviously. But here are the case badges on this side. It has a Pentium III Intel Inside case badge, and the design for Microsoft Windows 2000 Professional Windows 98 sticker. This one, because like this computer was manufactured well after the introduction of the Compaq Presario 7000 series. And as we get into reading the manufacturing date on this thing, this was probably like, I wouldn't say like a late model Compaq Presario 7000, because I think those were like made around 2001-ish or something. But this is like the mid-life cycle 7000 series computers. So like this was around like September, October, November, or something like that. We'll determine by that time frame, because the OS that this computer used to came with, it was Windows Millennium Edition or Windows ME. Now I know before you asked me to say, oh, Windows ME is the worst version of Windows ever, la la la. I get what you're saying by that, but like, wow, that that really caught me off guard. But anyways, this thing originally came with Windows ME, obviously, and I know from my knowledge, most users, well, they weren't really that fortunate with Windows ME running on their computers. It was just like more crash heavy and crash happy and well, it's very unstable as compared to Windows 98 Second Edition, which was its predecessor, or even the NT Windows 2000, pretty much. Now, I did have ME installed on this thing at one time. I was also kind of having that few instabilities with using the OS. So, well, for this thing, to forego Windows ME, I decided to use Windows 98 Second Edition using the same quick restore media that I used for that AMD Compaq, obviously. So, yeah, and I also have, because of the sticker, I also put Windows 2000 on here too as well in the dual boot. So, yeah. So let me put this piece back in, obviously, because it looks better with this on than it does without it, obviously. It just completes the whole look, obviously. Also, in comparison to the AMD Compaq that I have, the entire casing on this thing hasn't been yellowed, pretty much. It hasn't yellowed to a point where it's like noticeably yellow, but yeah, from what I'm looking at right now, it's pretty much white as it can be. So it hasn't really yellowed at all, pretty much. But it does have a few certain cracks here and there on the plastic and such. There is that one big crack piece on here that I eventually fixed later on. It got cracked in shipping, but I fixed it, obviously. This thing, this whole computer did not arrive damaged. I'll tell you that. It arrived safely. It was just that one small piece that was kind of cracked off during shipping, but like I fixed that with the super glue. But anyways, enough rambling about all those stuff. We'll just get into the brief of whatever that's on the front. So like I said earlier, we have a DVD-ROM, CD-ROM drive, a dead CDRW drive, and this one. This is the Lighton drive that I originally used on my AMD Compaq. I moved it to here, obviously, because, well, one, it looks better in this configuration, in this Compaq, because, like, this one, when compared to the on the one I had it on my AMD Compaq, it looks better in this one because, well, the entire casing is not yellowed. And also, I also had another Lighton drive for that AMD Compaq that fits perfectly with the aesthetic of that particular system because of its yellowed case. But yeah, so these are the 3 optical disk drives. Only 2 are being used, obviously. So like this one and this one is being used. And this Lighton drive, interestingly enough, to me at least, this is the exact same drive model that's also in my childhood Compaq, which I'll probably put up on the screen for you if you guys can see it in the edit. If you look at the bottom drive there, that's the same disk drive that I'm using right here. It's the same model drive that's used in my childhood Compaq, obviously. And I know this one has 1 floppy drive when it came with it, but because I did this recently. This is a second floppy disk drive, obviously. So now I have 2 floppy disk drives on the system, which is actually a first in my retrocomputing collection, because like I never really have any computers with dual floppy drives, but I was able to make this thing happen. You know, I was gonna do this thing like a few months before I actually attempted to do this, but I realized I would need to have like a floppy drive cable that has the 2 connectors on that one end, and the one that's in this before it only had that one connector, not the 2. So I was unable to use that dual floppy drive configuration at that time, but I was able to achieve that using that provided connector, that dual floppy drive connector, to use these 2 drives. But yeah, enough rambling about these ones. We'll open this thing up, this translucent door, which again reveals the 2 USB 1.1 ports and a 1394 FireWire port, IEEE 1394. And again, power button encased in the same pear-shaped enclosure as always with these Compaq Presario 5000 and 7000 series computers. The 5000 series is obviously the value-packed version of the 7000 series in a smaller micro ATX style case. This one is the performance-driven models of the 5000 series, obviously, in a bigger ATX case. Okay, and moving this over to the side, we got the Compaq Q logo etched on this side of the case, obviously. This is also on the 5000 series as well. This was part of their design language around those time. And flipping this over to the back, we can see a layout of ports on this thing. So obviously we got a power supply on here, and we got these ports on the back. We got 2 PS2/PS/2 ports, whatever you like to call it, for mouse and keyboard. So the keyboard is this one and the mouse is this one. We also got 2 additional USB 1.1 ports on the back. We got RS-232 serial port and an IEEE 1284 parallel printer port. And then at the bottom right here is a another IEEE 1394 FireWire port on the bottom right there. And going down further, there's these expansion cards that I have on here. This one here is an NVIDIA graphics card that's not original to this thing. I can actually show you the original card that actually came with this system when I got it. It's like the one that's in my AMD Compaq, but I would say a lot more refined, obviously, and packed with a bit more features. This is the original card that came with this Intel Compaq. This is the same NVIDIA Riva TNT2 Model 64 card that is like the one that originally came in my AMD Compaq, but as you can see here, it has more additional RAM memory, pretty much VRAM. So this one is 32 megs of video memory, and judging by this thing right here, it also has S-Video out, which is neat. So if you want to connect this thing up to your like your television or whatnot that had S-Video support, you can go ahead and do that, obviously. But either way, this is essentially like the TNT2 Model 64 16 megabyte card, which I also have on hand here, if I can compare the two. So yeah, these are the two Riva TNT2 Model 64 cards that I have in my collection, which I actually talked about these in the earlier video, a previous video on this channel. Obviously, you can go ahead and look that up if you want. But yeah, this is the original card that came with this system, obviously. Now, I did upgrade this card to this at one point when I was doing that little experiment, because I did have this computer for as an experimental retro computer to complement with my AMD Compaq, which was my main retro computer at the time. But I since used this as my main retro computer pretty much whenever it's plugged in. But I'm pretty sure I kind of briefly showed this on camera, but this is the NVIDIA GeForce 6200 AGP graphics card that I used for that little experiment that we'll get into in a bit. This is a 256 meg version of the card, and this was a untested card. I did tested this thing on this AMD Compaq, and it did work, but I was kind of having some little bit of issues with running this thing. So I tried a 512 version of this card, which obviously that didn't work because of memory conflict, and I tried another 256 card that's like this one that also had similar problems. So that's why I eventually moved to the card that's in there now, which is an NVIDIA GeForce 4 MX440 AGP graphics card, which was a highly popular OEM graphics card back in the day, you know, succeeding the GeForce 2 MX pretty much. So that's what's in here now. This one has VGA, S-Video, and DVI on here. So, and on the bottom here is the same Creative Sound Blaster Audio PCI Sound Blaster 128 sound card that's in like every single OEM computer made by Compaq or whatever. This one is great for wavetable, not great for DOS gaming and FM synthesis, pretty much. We all know FM synthesis emulation on this one is pretty off, we'll just say, to a real Sound Blaster 16 or Ablet. So DOS purists, like some of you out there, will probably avoid this and replace it with something much more compatible, like a Yamaha F744 or something like that. Something like that, obviously. And down here is it's a USB 2 card that's like the one in my AMD Compaq. I did have another one that had a FireWire connections, but I was kind of having problems with that card getting it to run on certain operating systems. So that's why I kind of changed it to this, obviously. And there's a broadband LAN Ethernet card down here, and there's a standard run-of-the-mill dial-up modem. Now obviously this wasn't even here when I got this system. Obviously it was missing this, so I had to get this separately, obviously, just to kind of complete it. So, and that's all there is to it on that particular end. And this thing is missing that little inlet piece, you know, the little card that I was talking about, this slip that I was talking about. This is from my AMD Compaq. It's this little paper slip cardboard cardstock inlet that usually goes up at the top here pretty much. So it would kind of go in like this and it will lock in place pretty much. Then you'll be able to take it out and you'll be able to see what's on this thing. I obviously don't want to show you this again, but like we'll show. Order my style accent kits at compaq.com/at-home/color. That obviously doesn't exist anymore, and where can you find help and all these links, where you can find info and all those other stuff. So yeah, so that is what used to come with all of these Compaq Presario's 5000, 7000 series computers. Those paper inlets that used to come on these 5000 and 7000 series models were lost to time in the secondhand market, obviously. So yeah, anyways, that's all there is to say about that. Now we're going to be taking a look at the inside of this thing pretty much. So this thing has two screws holding the side panel, unlike the one singular screw, the top screw obviously, and that's on my Intel, well not Intel, the AMD Compaq obviously. So I'll go ahead and open this thing up, and this one is kind of a bit finicky to take the side panel off, but I can do it with at least a little bit of effort. Yeah, I would use the I would use something like this. This is like a little thing that you kind of put it on like a jar or something, and then you like twist it around. It's like a little gripper piece to kind of aid with that, but I didn't use it here, so because I had this sitting up. So alright, so this is the inside of this Intel Compaq, and once again, this side panel also has the manufacturing date. The manufacturing date of this computer. So this one is manufactured, oh, this upside down too. I did it again. Okay, this particular Compaq Presario 7000 was manufactured in October 27th of 2000. So you can see on this one, this is pretty precise. They had it pretty precise on the date here. Instead of just using numbers for the month, they used an actual like a 3-letter word for the month pretty much. So this is October, this is 27, and this is 2000. So this particular Compaq was manufactured in October 27th of 2000 pretty much. So it was right after my AMD Compaq that was manufactured sometime in June of 2000, like right at the start of the Compaq Presario 7000 introduction. And judging by that time, because like that AMD Compaq came with Windows 98 2nd Edition, and this one came with Windows ME, because ME was released in September of 2000. 98 2nd Edition was released in like earlier on in 1999 or something like that. But yeah, here's the inside. Now you can see, since this is a later model Compaq Presario 7000 series computer, we can see we have, this is underneath this CPU fan is a Pentium III processor. Now this one is a 933 megahertz Coppermine Pentium III CPU, obviously. So I could take this with a 1 gigahertz Pentium III CPU, like the one that I have in my collection, obviously. So I could take a Pentium III CPU like this one. This is just for display because it's missing that well, from the looks of it, yeah, it's missing that one pin. Can you see it? But this one is a representation of what I could use to upgrade the CPU on this thing. Because I did attempt a CPU upgrade on this thing at one time, and I was kind of testing it out. It probably didn't go so well, so I went back to the 933 megahertz CPU, but This is still on one of my list upgrades for this thing. A 1 gigahertz Pentium III copper mine, pretty much. Because this thing cannot take Tualatin Pentium 3s, unfortunately, because this motherboard predates it. Either way, what we got here, this one is the, that's the graphics card that's in this thing. It's a GeForce 4 MX440 AGP 8-speed card that's in this one. This thing has a universal AGP slot, so it can accept this card, pretty much, so. And down here, well, that's the sound card. This is the Sound Blaster 128 PCI sound card, which, like I said before, great for wavetable, not great for DOS gaming and FM synthesis. And down here is the USB 2 card, and that's the Ethernet card and the dial-up modem card. And on the inside, at least, you can see we have two. If I turn the computer over, you can see down here we have two hard drives in here. So we have not just one, but two hard drives running in tandem. So that's because this thing had two additional hard drive caddies. You know, well, as two hard drive caddies came with this thing when I bought it, so I took advantage of that. So I got a 160 gig drive that I'm using as the primary, and I'm using a 500 gig drive as my secondary. Now obviously I do have the original hard drive that came with this thing, obviously. So this is the original hard drive that came in this Compaq, obviously, when I bought this thing. There's the original drive. It's a 40 gig drive. So with these particular Compaqs, when they were originally produced, they came with hard drive capacities of like 20 to 40 gigs. I don't think there was an 80 gig option for these Compaqs though. And here's the 40 gig drive that came with this system, that originally came with this system. You can tell this is an original drive for this system because it has Compaq Computer Corp stickers on it. Can you see that? So this is the original drive that came with this system, but obviously this thing is pretty much dead. Like, I booted this thing up with this hard drive in here. It could not read to anything whatsoever. So this hard drive is completely dead. It's a Western Digital Caviar 40 gig drive. So yeah, so this drive is completely dead. So I replaced it with the 160 and the 500 gig drives. Now I did have the 500 gig drive in here originally because I was still waiting for the 160 gig drive to come, but eventually the 160 gig drive eventually came, and I used the 160 gig drive as my main and the 500 gig drive as the secondary. And they're both running in cable select, obviously. So anyways, oh, and before we get into putting this thing up in its regular home and seeing the software side of things, this is the power supply unit, and it's 300. It's a 300 watt power supply. You know, compared to my AMD Compaq, which is a 250 watt power supply. This is the same wattage power supply that's also in my childhood Compaq too, which that childhood Compaq had an Intel Pentium IV processor inside, one of the earliest ones, Socket 423 Willamette one, probably a 1.4 megahertz, a 1.4 Pentium 4, pretty much. So I could potentially upgrade this thing to a Pentium 4 if I wanted to, but I think just for the sake of just keeping this computer as it is, I'll have to go with a Pentium 3, obviously. Oh, and this thing also has 3 memory slots supporting up to 3 RAM sticks. So it currently has 3 RAM sticks in here. Now at the moment they're all 128, so for each individual RAM stick. So this makes up to 768 megabytes of memory, which is the maximum amount of what this computer can take. Now, this board can obviously support up to 1.5 gigs using 512 modules. That's not officially supported on this configuration, obviously, but I have suspected that it may work. I'm not really sure about that because I have not really tested it on this thing, but either way, and here's also the other RAM stick that I do have that originally came with this computer. This is that 128. This is the 128 RAM stick that originally came in this thing. And I'll correct myself on the RAM that's in here. These are not 128 RAM sticks. They're 256. So they're using 256, three 256 RAM modules. So it equates up to 768. If I was doing like three 128, that would give me like 384 megs of RAM. This computer originally shipped with 640 megs of RAM, using the two 256 meg modules and one 128 meg module. So that makes 640 megs of RAM. Now, obviously, I did an attempt to try to upgrade the RAM a couple times. Those have failed, but I did eventually get this thing to work, obviously, with this maximum amount of RAM. But just recently, I started having issues with this thing again. Probably because of the memory that's in here. Because I think the motherboard in this thing is kind of going out or something like that. But I'm not really too certain. If there's indeed any more problems that come with in terms of memory or RAM related, maybe I might just swap out the motherboard or something with the one that can pretty much accept the RAM as it should have been. Like, well, that could be, I could be replacing the motherboard for other reasons, like if the capacitor's like bloated or something like that, or like if I break the CPU socket out of this thing, whatever. But for now, if there's any problem with the RAM, I could just simply downgrade it to 640 megs, downgrade it back to 640 using this 128 meg module. But I guess that's all there is to say on this one, because I kind of rambled on this part for a little bit longer. So I'll seal it back up. Like put this side panel up pretty much, and then put the screws on pretty much. Alright, so I have it all back up, and I'll be putting this thing in its regular home pretty much, and we'll be seeing what this thing can do, obviously, or in its current state, obviously, because as I mentioned earlier, this thing recently started to have some problems on some OSs, but except for one. So I'll be putting this thing up in its regular home, and we'll see what it can do. So I'll be back with you guys in a bit. Alright, so now I have this hooked up in its regular home alongside my AMD Compaq right next to it. And I'm actually going to end this video off here because this video has already gone a bit too long, you know, in terms of talking about all the aspects of this system and the hardware and such, and my overall history with getting this computer, obviously. So in the next video, we'll be showing you guys the software that was contained in this system at the time of recording the system, because I actually did tinker with this thing like yesterday or something and fix the memory issue that I talked about in the video, obviously. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope to see you all in the next video. So stay tuned for the next part, because I'm splitting this video into two parts, obviously. So stay tuned for the next part when it comes. So I hope to see you guys later. See ya.